It's so good to see you all. It's a day off from classes and there's snow on the ground, and you're here. You should give yourselves a hand. I'm so glad that you're here. I would welcome you to join in to our second Selah service of the semester. This is something new we've been trying this fall. In Scripture, the word Selah means pausing in a biblical passage. So a reader or the singer of that passage would pause and then reflect on the verses that have come before. And you'll most often see that word Selah in the book of the Psalms, which is what we're going to talk about today. This Selah service is pausing and reflecting on what we heard about last week with Pastor Corey Hunka. He taught about the Psalms. And this is the big book in the middle of our Bibles. It has 150 chapters. But today we're going to pause and reflect on the Psalms and focus in a little bit more to understand how the Psalms represent a range of human emotions that you and I have been created with. And then toward the end of the service, we'll have the opportunity to participate in Holy Communion if you would choose. So the Psalms represent conversations with God about things that matter most. But how do we approach it? It's such a big book in our Bibles. Well, let me ask you this. Who here has done a puzzle? All right, keep your hand up. It's hard for me to see. Keep your hand up if you put together the edges first. Oh, some of you are just wrong. You put together the middle first. Okay. Well, I put the edges together first. I find the corner pieces. Who does that first? Find the corner pieces. Maybe it's just how your brain works, how you put the puzzle together. But I find that when I have that framework of the puzzle put together, I get a better idea of how to put the rest of the pieces inside of it. And so that's the same idea when we're approaching a book like the Psalms. If we get a sense of the framework or the outline of the book, then we know how to approach each of the individual 150 Psalms and know how it fits inside the whole book. So today we're going to be doing that. We're going to be putting together a framework of the Psalms so that we can understand it better. And this framework is from a wonderful theologian and author named Walter Brueggemann. And what he does is he categorizes the Psalms into three categories: Psalms of orientation, Psalms of disorientation, and Psalms of new orientation. And here's how it works. Psalms of orientation, you'll read in those the sense of satisfaction or well-being in life, and somebody's giving gratitude to the Lord. So often you'll read a psalm of thanksgiving or praise, and that's a song of orientation. But then there's this, a second category, Psalms of disorientation, like they are disoriented. And you'll often read in these this exaggeration of pain or this abrasive view of life and self. Yes, that is in the Bible. And when we read these Psalms, we see that the author had this sense of alienation or despair or grief. And then the third category is Psalms of new orientation. This is written about joy breaking through despair. So they describe feelings of relief, feelings of calm. And so the writer acknowledges that they have been through a dark time in their lives, or they're in the middle of a dark time in their lives, but they're speaking about God's comfort that has come in the midst of that darkness. So when we read these kind of Psalms, we find a new understanding of God's goodness. So here's what my question is for you today. As you hear about these different types of Psalms, where are you this morning? If we could advance one slide. Are you feeling thankful, grateful, a sense of praising God, like a psalm of orientation? Or are you feeling pain? Are you feeling sadness or despair this morning? Kind of like a psalm of disorientation? Or are you feeling a sense of relief this morning because either you're in or you've recently been in a dark time, but you at least have a sense of God's comfort in the midst of it? And so I want us to find ourselves, I want us to center ourselves right now this morning. So if you'd be willing to, take a moment, close your eyes, if you're comfortable, settle into your seat. And try to identify yourselves and your emotions this morning. And I'll leave a moment of silence for you to do that. And I invite you to take a deep breath and recognize what you're feeling this morning and know that it is just fine. It is okay to be in a worship service before God and feel whatever you're feeling. Because if you hear nothing else, I really want you to hear this morning. No emotion is off limits when it comes to your relationship with God. No emotion is off limits. Just like we see in the Psalms, and we'll talk about it this morning, wherever you are, whatever you're feeling, you can talk with God about the things that matter most. So we're going to transition and walk through these three categories together in this service. There's three movements. And we're going to begin with Psalms of Orientation. And to do that, would you please stand and let's sing a song of praise.